Hello and welcome to the Yukon Entrepreneur Podcast series. I'm your host, Carrie Johnston, and I'm recording today on the traditional territory of Champin-Ajiac First Nations in beautiful Dakota-Haines Junction. And I'm joined today by Myles. Myles, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me back on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, wonderful to have you back.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to sort of catch up and sort of have a part two of sort of how the business has changed. So I guess just in terms of a little intro of myself, my name is Myles Hougen. I'm the co-founder of Yukon Built alongside my brother Tanner. We have a local apparel company here in Whitehorse, a lifestyle brand that we've been building over the last number of years and carry products all the way from, hoodies and hats to now I've added categories like outerwear. We've got kids and toddler things, and I've sort of built the brand, pardon the pun, around sort of the Yukon community and have established a lifestyle and apparel brand around the whole concept.
Awesome. And so Myles, thinking way back to the beginning of the pandemic, what's your first memory of like, oh, this is a really big deal?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a few. There was a very clear moment in my mind was Tanner, my brother, co-founder of the business, was actually one of the first number of people in the Yukon to test positive for COVID, which was, I guess, March of 2020. So probably exactly 2 years ago now. So it was very early on at least when Canada started experiencing what this COVID thing was all about. So very clear having Tanner test positive for COVID. And at that point, we still were very unsure of what this whole thing was, what it meant. Because I'd been in contact with Tanner, I then had to isolate for 14 days. And as business owners and business people, it put a massive strain on us personally, but also professionally as businesses, as managers and leaders of our brand and our businesses, to all of a sudden be like, we're going to have to stay home for the next 2 weeks. I fortunately never tested positive at the time, but because I was a direct contact, I spent 14 days in isolation in a different home than Tanner was at the time, and he was isolated. So it was a very apparent first experience for us right from the get-go. It was early on, and there were still so many unknowns. That was a incredibly stressful time, actually.
Oh, that certainly would be.
Yeah.
What have you learned about your business model over the past 2 years? And I recall, when we talked earlier, you hadn't really seen that many impacts other than the tremendous support of Yukoners. And is that still the same case for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same case from our first conversation. We've been very fortunate from the get-go is that when we had, even from the beginning, when we established our business online, or having an online presence, at least through social media, through our website, we had that ability to still be in contact with customers, with consumers, even if it wasn't in person. Perfect example when during early stages of the pandemic, when businesses had to shut down or reduce hours or things like that, we still have the ability to sell product through our website and have curbside pickup. So we already had I guess you could say, the structure or the foundation through an online presence that allowed us to still operate. So that was fortunate for us. Beyond that, I guess some people would think it's a little crazy as we continued to build out our online presence over the course of the last 2 years and really sort of double down on being able to connect and sell and be in front of people through online. We actually opened our first official Yukon Built store here in Whitehorse. So we actually, with everything going on, it seems a little crazy, but we opened our first brick and mortar store and a physical presence last June of 2021. So not only were we able to sort of double down on our online presence with, as I talked to the first time we chatted, the incredible support of Yukoners and really rallying around Yukon business and wanting to support local, we were able to take that leap to establish a dedicated Yukon Built store downtown Whitehorse, which allowed us to have that sort of direct connection in a physical sense, even though it's been limited and it's been masks in store and it's been a little different than you'd anticipate. We never had a grand opening for that reason, because of the limited capacity restrictions and things like that. It still gave us enough sort of confidence that what we were doing was working. People liked what we were doing. People were incredibly supportive of our brand through collaborations, through our own products, which really allowed us to have the confidence to sort of continue to jump in 2 feet and say, you know what, we're into this thing. Let's build out this local hub, this local sort of brick and mortar space where people could come and experience our brand, experience our products. So yeah, that's been an interesting evolution of the brand to have both the online presence, but also betting on the physical experience of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed any interruptions in your supply chain in the last 2 years?
Definitely, most recently, more than anything, which has been an interesting sort of evolution of what we've been experiencing through the pandemic. Early on, it was, yes, the stress of, the potential for lockdowns and limited store capacity and things like that were the main considerations, but we were still operating as normal, where we could get product when we wanted it. And it's really been in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, and it glaringly was the most obvious for our Christmas season of 2021, where we felt it the most, where 18 months after the start of the pandemic, we were sort of feeling the effects of, shipping delays and shipping containers being 5 times more expensive, and factories being shut down or having limited staffing, which really started to back up, and all these little effects that might have delayed things by a few days turned into a few weeks. And then, as an example, for Christmas of 2021, we estimate, based on what we had anticipated having in stock for the Christmas season, we were probably about 800 units short from what we expected or had planned to have in stock at the time, strictly due to supply chain issues. So we had maybe about 2 weeks ago, so call it the beginning of February, we had one of our large Christmas restocks arrive at the beginning of February. So that has definitely been a challenge, trying to navigate, one, getting product that we want and getting it timely, but two, also navigating, it's like, okay, all these back orders we've been experiencing for 2, 3, 6 months now are starting to trickle back in. It's like, okay, well, now I have these 800 units of sweaters and hoodies that I anticipated having for Christmas, and now I'm getting them in the middle of February, which is typically a very slow retail season. So that's been a new dynamic, a new hurdle we've had to be navigating in the last few months, which is probably been the most difficult piece of how the pandemic has directly affected a business like ours, which is a physical product, a consumer product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's rendezvous, not Christmas.
Yeah,
right when we're recording this.
Exactly.
Myles, who's your customer? Is it Yukoners, or have you seen sort of national, international expansion?
Yeah, Yukoners definitely at the forefront still of what we're doing. It's been amazing, the amount of people that are proud to wear our product, our brand, represent Yukon Built. So I'd say definitely still Yukon is the primary customer. But beyond that, it's a lot of people, any way someone has some kind of connection to the Yukon. So whether you're a Yukoner, whether you're actually living here, or it's someone that maybe used to live here but has moved elsewhere and wanted that little piece of home, it's someone maybe that has come from elsewhere and moved here. It might be someone that's just visited here. So a lot of our customer base right now is still people that either know or have experienced the Yukon in some capacity. But beyond that, we're also seeing the potential for customers sort of on a larger scale, a larger scope, that the Yukon itself, the name, the sort of the image it conjures up when people think of the Yukon, we've sort of realized that we can start tapping into that storytelling of what the Yukon is, what it means to be Yukon built, if you will. Because we've had recently orders that we've shipped to Austria and Germany, and we've actually reached out and said, hey, like, how did you come across us? And some of them have, they're big fans of the Yukon Quest and came across our gear or a collaboration with Yukon Quest, or they read Jack London as a kid. And now, so they've always had in their mind this image of what the Yukon is. And now they come across our brand as sort of this small representation of what whatever that means to them. So although our primary customer is definitely Yukoners, and I think will always continue to be, we definitely see potential beyond that as well. We've been getting really interesting feedback of how we can sort of tap into the market of people that are sort of imagining and dreaming of the Yukon itself.
Well, that's beautiful. Leadership's inherent in all that we do as business owners. What are you learning about leadership as you navigate through the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think has been a really important piece of the puzzle, especially as a relatively, I mean, we've been in business 5 years now. Celebrated our fifth anniversary in January, but it's really been the last year or two that we've dove in full time, really making this our full-time thing that we've committed. So I would still consider myself fairly new at leadership management, learning how to work with a team, hiring staff to be part of sort of what we're building. So one, it's such an integral part of growing any business, any organization. And two, it's been a real personal challenge for me in a good way of maybe pushing myself outside of my comfort zone of what it means to be a leader, especially during a time like the pandemic when there's so many unknowns and stress levels are high. And, it's especially when you're locked at home, winters are tough. They're long, they're dark, they're cold. So me being a leader of our business is really important to keep that sort of positivity, that energy, to lead the team, to lead the staff we now have in the retail store, to sort of be that person that people can look to sort of lead the charge. So it's been an incredibly important piece, and actually has allowed me to learn a lot about myself, I think, in the last 2 years of how to be a good and a better leader.
Mm-hmm. We've all had to adapt how we, to the new normal. Which of the sort of adaptations that your business has had to undergo are you the most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of on a two-part of that question, I'm really proud of how we've navigated the pandemic and continued to sort of be confident and positive in what we're doing and continue to push the envelope and what we're capable of. We certainly haven't slowed down at all. We've continued to push forward and really believe we can continue growing this business, this brand, and turn it into something special. So I think I'm proud that it hasn't sort of deterred us from continuing what we're doing. And I think on a personal level, on a holistic level, I think it's been a good reminder of how important balance is. It's really easy, especially in these last couple of years, to put your head down and just work. And I think for a lot of people, it's been a good reminder of the importance of balance, and it's not just all work or not just all play, and having that balance. For me, it's as simple as after a long day of work, getting out and going for a walk along the river, this beautiful, like, amazing place we live, to be able to actually go out and experience it. Especially not having the opportunity to travel in the last couple of years too. It's allowed me to tap into, actually experience probably more of the Yukon potentially than I would have otherwise, and really sort of appreciate and fall in love with this place we're so lucky to call home. So both on a personal and a professional level, I think there's been good reasons to be proud of how we're navigating all this as a group, as individuals, as a team. Even though it's been a challenging couple of years for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which of the public health measures has been the most challenging for you?
For us, I mean, we've been pretty fortunate as a business, as a retailer. We haven't had the restrictions in place like restaurants or bars or things that have had to limit, their patrons or close down altogether or go to takeout only. So, I mean, for us, it's been fairly reasonable to navigate. Of course, it's been challenging having the masks on every day, and you have those few customers here and there that don't want to comply, and creates these tense moments here and there. But more often than not, everyone's been so reasonable, so understanding. So I would say out of a lot of businesses, both locally here in Whitehorse in the Yukon, but also compared to a lot of the cities down south, which have maybe been more strict and more restrictions for businesses and how they can operate, we've been very fortunate that it hasn't affected our ability to run our business too drastically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you accessed any of the pandemic related supports, employee relief benefits, or anything like that?
No, we haven't actually. The only one I guess we did have to recently is one of our staff members ended up testing positive for COVID and was off work for a couple of weeks. So we were able to tap in to have help with the wages for the 2 weeks she was off. We did that in one instance, but other than that, not really. We haven't had to use any of the other supports or programs in place.
Mm-hmm. Going forward, how are you thinking about your business differently?
I think, I don't know if it's differently. I think sort of like we talked about in the first conversation, it's just continuing to do what we've been doing. We've been lucky since last June to really focus on building out our physical presence here in town, which has really established this groundwork where I think it's so important to have this ability to have people come and experience our business, our brand, especially with clothing. It's very much touch and feel and try on, and we want to create the whole brand feel that when you walk in there is a bit of that wow factor, which really lends to building out the brand image as a whole, whether it's for someone local coming by to buy a sweater or a hat, but also for someone that's visiting, as visitors begin to come back and be like, wow, that brand exists here. So we've really committed to making that an important part of what we're doing. And yeah, continuing to tap into the ability to connect to people online. We want to do a better job of telling our story, telling our brand visually through social media, through photo, through video, and just continue to build on the sort of foundation we've built over the last number of years. And yeah, see where we can continue to push this thing.
Have you learned any new skills to kind of help get you there?
New skills. Not directly, other than just being more cognizant of I guess it would be not necessarily new skills, but our willingness to connect with other people that maybe have the skills that we don't have, maybe is a good way to put it. I mean, we're all always, Tanner and I are always trying to, try new things and learn new things. And, we all have our different books that we read and podcasts we listen to sort of expand our mind and our approach to business. And, but it's also our openness to work with other people that maybe have those skill sets that we don't, for something like content creation or, building out our online presence through visuals and lookbooks is, there's an amazing talent pool of local photographers and videographers up here, and connecting with those kind of people. So even though it's maybe not our best skill set, and understanding that it's not our top skill, is to be able to work with people that have those skills to really broaden our approach to business as a whole. So there's so much talent up here. It's awesome, and everyone's sort of, the power of the Yukon is being able to connect with people on such like a human level, where it's not some big ordeal to connect with a local photographer. It's like, yeah, well, let's go grab a beer, let's chat about what you're looking to do, and let's see if and how we can work together. And I love working with people like that. So that doesn't really answer your question, but I think it's sort of been a growth of Tanner and I in the last couple of years, is starting to reach out and connect with people that can help us grow the business based on their skill sets in sort of conjunction with ours.
I think that it's a wonderful response. It's an expansive mindset for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of instability in the Yukon economy and, global economy. What are some of the things that you're paying attention to? What are some of your hopes for how we emerge from this pandemic?
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. I mean, everything we're seeing, every time you turn on the news nowadays, there's a new challenge arising. I think especially up here, obviously, the cost of living is something something we have to be very considerate of, both on a personal and a professional level. I think even just the cost of operating a business up here is quite high, whether that's I'm sure you've talked to a number of businesses that it's like commercial space to find here, at least in Whitehorse, is an incredible challenge. And when you do, it's quite expensive. The cost of getting goods shipped up here, is also a challenge. So like, how can we re-envision how we do bring product up? Can we start producing more of it here? And how we can sort of navigate those kind of things. So yeah, it'll be an interesting, I think, even in these next 12 months to see how, as some of these restrictions are starting to lessen and lift, and I think we have at least a little bit of optimism of seeing whatever the new normal is, but getting back to a little bit more of some normalcy of how things sort of shake out in the next 8 to 12 months, and how we can sort of continue to navigate that with everything we've established over the last 2 years. So
Any advice for emerging entrepreneurs?
I would say now's a good time. Any time in the last 2 years has been a good time to really dive into things, especially with the ability to, with so much content and sort of expertise online that you can tap into. If there's something you're interested in, passionate about, like there's so much knowledge out there that you can tap into. With people working from home, I think there's a really an ability to sort of tap into your passion projects, you know, on evenings and weekends. And I think it's actually a really interesting time. It seems challenging to launch a business, and in a lot of instances it is, but there's so much opportunity right now, and a lot of barriers have been reduced of how to get into business. And even up here, there's amazing grants and funds and things that you can look into that can help you get that kickstart to sort of bring that vision to life. So I think it's an exciting time to be in business. There's obviously some real challenges as well. But if there's something you're passionate about and have always dreamt of doing, like there's no better time than now. We see with the volatility of everything going on right now, there's no point waiting to end. And there's so much opportunity to, like we did with Yukon Built, to start small. It doesn't have to be 0 to 100 straight to building out this dream business right away. We're 5 years in. First 3 years, it was a side business. It was something Tanner and I worked on. We both worked full time doing other things. We worked on evenings and weekends to build it out to a point where it could sustain, or at least one of us. Tanner still works in other family businesses, but that allowed us to jump into the business full time and continue to build it. So I think also patience is a big key of that, and realizing maybe you're not ready to jump in all in right now. Maybe you are, but if you're not, start small. Start building out, start testing the market with whatever it is. And maybe eventually 1, 2, 3 years down the road, it can become your full-time thing. So yeah, I think there's neat opportunity still to dive into whatever you might want to be getting into. Any
aha moments for you, or shifts in your worldview as a result of the pandemic?
I don't know if it was aha moments. I think it was sort of back to my previous thought of work-life balance and how important it is. I'm still working on it to this day. But I think whether it was an aha moment or not, I think it was definitely constant reminders throughout the pandemic that especially with it's been stressful a lot of the times for everyone for different reasons throughout the pandemic. And it's so important. And again, my wife would probably tell you I'm a bad example of work-life balance right now, but it was a good reminder seeing everyone sort of take that approach to, like, you know, there is more to life than just work, and especially for mental health and everything, like getting out, doing a sport, getting outside, working in different routines to your day, whether it's, you know, meditation in the morning, things like that, and trying to work those things into my daily routine. And by doing so, having sort of a more holistic approach to business and personal life.
Mm-hmm. Well, that kind of leads into the next question. What's keeping you grounded and well?
Getting outside, I think, is probably the main one right now. I think when we first talked, I was starting to meditate and explore that, and I've fallen off the track a little bit lately. But yeah, especially with some of these, I mean, we've had some cold snaps, but we've also had some mild parts through the winter here where, again, the access to the outdoors that we have up here, to be able to go for a quick ski or literally walk out the door and you're on a trail or the riverfront, whatever it might be, getting some fresh air, getting some sunlight when you can, like that's been an important grounding part to me. And even there's been times where I feel like I can't get away during the day for a quick lunch break or whatever it is. But it's no, taking those 30 minutes to get outside, go have a bite to eat, have that capacity to take a break. And also, in my view, that also allows me to be more productive when I get back to work too, because I've had that break, that sort of reset throughout the day. So yeah, it's a mix of everything. I think it's different for everyone, but for me, it's having those little moments, those little breaks, and getting outside.
Fair. Any final thoughts before we close out for today?
I guess just want to thank you for doing everything you're doing with tracking this process for everyone. I think it's going to be incredibly interesting to look back on this research to see how people have navigated the pandemic from an entrepreneurial kind of lens. And yeah, I would say we're just thankful for the position we're in as a business. Yukon Built has continued to grow year over year, even through these challenging last couple of years. So I'm excited of where we're at currently, which is a nice feeling, even through the hurdles we've been through in the last couple of years. And we're really excited for the next 5 to see where we can take it, and hopefully we can chat again sometime soon with more updates, more growth, more expansion into where we can reach. But yeah, just really wanted to thank you, Carrie, for taking the time.
Well, thanks so much, Myles. Thanks for all you do. Take care.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.